just go over on a blank piece of wood some of the processes that I got into on already today. And I think it's really nice, and I highly recommend this for everybody, is to keep a couple pieces of just blank wood or wood panels or just empty paper around to kind of practice what you're doing on the photos, right? So as much as you want to just like be great on the photos, you kind of have to be great at these skills on their own as well, so that when you're on the photos, you're making the right decisions and going in the right direction. So a couple of things that we talked about, and I'm going to demonstrate this a bunch of times for the afternoon, but we talked about encaustic gesso, right? So I'm just going to split this canvas, and I'm going to use this paper towel, but I'm going to go ahead and put the encaustic gesso on. But I mean, even the what I'm doing right now, Rebecca, that light is way too bright. You gotta, yeah, it's gotta go back, or they can't even, it's like blowing out those whites so bad. Hang on one second. And maybe a little bit of angle. Is that better?
That's better.
That is better.
It was so bright, right? Okay, so
That's good.
That's better.
I know, because okay, but I can't paint like, so even like, so encaustic gesso is like, it's so beautiful. So it's kind of like painting like with yogurt, right? It's like, it can have texture or it can be totally smooth, right? This wood too is not totally smooth, right? If I really wanted this to be smooth, I would have sanded the wood, okay? But the idea here is that I just wanted to emphasize the difference of adding wax medium to wood or a substrate with encaustic gesso and not with encaustic gesso. And I also really just wanted to demonstrate some of the techniques that I showed you without the photo, right? So for those of you that are familiar with Photoshop layers, I always say that what I do with encaustic is like what you could do in Photoshop with layers, right? You could take a picture of a piece of lace, you can lay it over a photo in double exposure mode, right? And you can reduce the opacity, right, to allow the photo to come through. So just start thinking about your wax in that way, right? That it's like a layer that you're putting over the photo, and then you're controlling how opaque or translucent it is. And then also, like we talked about, scraping it back, you're controlling what part of the photo is visible to your viewer. The light is still too bright. So can you just turn it on an angle a little bit more to my right? Yeah, that's good. That's better. Okay. So I just did some encaustic gesso here. Also, if you wanted to add, make it more textured, you can really like make it more textured, right? And like sometimes I do this, especially for the flowers, right? Because if I make a pod like this or a form like this, that's very floral to me. Can everybody mute? Somebody has some background noise on. Can everybody put their computers on mute so that, because I hear like stat, thank you. Okay, so already just by kind of like dabbing this like this, that's much better. Thank you so much. I can sort of already sort of start that floral. Now, if you wanted to too, I think we talked about this, right? Where we're using a stencil in a flower to kind of go over, right? We can start this sort of conversation about flower art or flower forms, right? And you don't always have to use a flower form. You could also use a leafy form, right? So anything botanical, or really to me, anything sort of circular, right? I could also take my paintbrush, right? And at any place, if I wanted, I can make a flower, right? So, flowers are not that hard, and you can make flowers up, right? I mean, that's kind of floral, right? Anything little like seedy, and you can study your flower forms. But okay, so that's kind of cute. It's sort of floral, but non-specific, right? Just sort of gesturally floral. And okay. And then also, again, like addition and subtraction. So not only adding form, right? But then remember how I also like take it away. So always scratching, like scratching into the gesso. It's still like too bright. It's stretch it into the gesso or even like drawing, right? I mean, again, and who knows if I'll even see any of this mark making, but I'm sort of just establishing a floral composition. Okay. The next thing I'm going to talk about is this thing called using a torch, right? Or burning wood and burning the gesso, right? So I'm going to do this on the big panel, but you can actually ignite, right? Or enlarge the gesso with the heat. So it's actually drying it, but it's also reacting to the heat by bubbling, which is kind of cool. And this always reminds me of like ceramics, but it also acts as a resist, which I love. So I'm able to sort of create this black and white floral patterning by just using gesso and heat. Okay, so like this is just all like a fun, and I'm gonna do this again today when I work on the collage of Rebecca, right? But look how botanical this is. It just looks like a whole little field of flowers, right? And I kind of have these big flowers on the side, right? So this is like a really just amazing technique. I mean, you could just do this all day long, but imagine if you did this like over a picture of some flowers, right? Where you painted some of them white with gesso and then you kind of burned around and now you're going to add your layer of wax. Okay. So like amazing, right? And so organic, right? And all the things that we loved about alchemy, right? And like, this is what I loved about the dark room, right? Was this sort of ability to use light and chemicals and heat, right? To create sort of scientific little happenings, right? So like so pretty, right? Okay. So what I'm going to talk about now is I'm going to talk about how I can use wax medium over this, right? To start building up surface. Okay. And I'm going to go back to everything I said earlier today about brush size, right? What did I say? Like bigger brushes, you can go longer and smoother. Smaller brushes by width, you're going to have to move more time. So you're going to have more texture. And then the short bristle brushes are going to have the most texture, right? And also, you don't have to always brush directionally. You can brush up and down. You can brush sideways. You can also brush it circular. So like whatever your motion is physically that you're enjoying is fine. You're going to get different results. So let's talk about the results of these different brush strokes. Okay, so remember too, I have the wax medium on my left, right? And this brush is totally clean and I can test it. I mean, I know it's clean because I cleaned it, but remember how I tested it was like on a piece of white paper, right? So I tested it and okay, so it's clean. Also, this is kind of fun, but this is rice paper. So you can see how totally absorbent, right? Can you see it went right through the rice paper, right? So that's something to keep in mind. And it is semi-translucent, but not totally translucent. So I'm getting an echo. Do you think I'm getting it off of this phone? Okay. All right. So anyway, this could be cool. So you could technically, with the rice papers or tissue paper or any lightweight paper, you can technically fuse this paper into the wax surface once you have a wax surface there. So not only can the wax be an additive over your photo, over your gesso, over your burned areas, but it can also be used as an adhesive. Okay. And I know somebody, Mary, might have asked me last night about transfers. You definitely can transfer onto encaustic surfaces. You can also do photo silk screening onto encaustic surfaces. So those are things that you can look forward to your future. You can also do graphite rubbings onto your encaustic surface where you have like heavy duty graphite paper, you flip it over, you draw on the back, right? And you, right? So you transplant the graphite. So you can look into that. So there are lots, again, like lots of things you can do with wax, right? All right. So let's do the nice big broad 4-inch brush stroke, right? So I'm gonna go right down the middle, right? And I'm gonna go slow. Also, this surface is uneven, so you can see, right? Because it's bumpy, you can see how the surface is kind of, right? The high spots are kind of popping out of the wax, right? So if I wanted to cover them, I would just need to add more wax, but I'm just gonna let that cool, right? So that's that nice, smooth, glass-like texture. I think I'm gonna paint a little bit with some mud. And remember, we talked about my mud. So like my mud is not that dirty right now. So this was my, it's really not. It's, I mean, it's not perfectly clean, but it's really not that dirty. So I'm gonna go ahead and paint with it. I'm gonna build up um, this base layer with my mud, which is fine. Okay, so I'm gonna go over the burn part. And again, like I can go hashtag, right? Like up, down, up, over. And it's really only the long, like after it starts to cool, I can continue to brush. And this is when I'm gonna get the texture, right? As I'm brushing, as the wax is cooling, I have not re-dipped it. I'm just brushing, right? But you can see a big difference, hopefully, between the burned area and the middle, where this was totally smooth, big hake brush, right? So hopefully you can really, and still I have wax, right? Still I have wax, right? So that's one brush load full, but I just kept brushing the whole time in multiple directions, right? Primarily a hashtag. So these brush strokes are crisscrossing, right? So that's nice. So I'm gonna have a lot of texture here. Okay, so let's try another brush. I'm actually gonna try one of these little guys. And I know a lot of people really love these brushes. So, and they're adorable. I mean, why not? This one is dirty though. It's pink, right? And it's a pretty colored pink, but I mean, I could use it just for argument's sake, but I'm just gonna clean it, right? I'm gonna clean it. I'm gonna put it back in the mud and I'm gonna clean it. Okay, so it's being stubborn. Being stubborn. Pink. Pink is stubborn. Okay, so here I am cleaning it. All right, so that's pretty good. I'm gonna go with that. It's pretty good. Okay, here we go. So I'm gonna, again, this brush is gonna make different type of texture and I'm gonna go in these sweeping lines, right? So I'm gonna go curve. I'm gonna curve all these lines and I dip twice because this one's such a small brush. I don't have quantity, right? The hake brush had so much more wax in the bristles because of the type of brush it is. This brush doesn't carry a lot of wax. So I have to keep, I re-dipped already 3 times, 4 times I'm re-dipping, okay? And now that I did that 4 times, it kind of got smooth. If I brush longer, I'm gonna get more brush strokes. All right. So I should have perfectly smooth in the middle, crisscross hashtag on the right, and kind of these sweepy brush strokes. But I had to really work hard to get the wax to build up. And if you can really see it, it does have a pinkish, right? It does have a pinkish tone to it, especially on the left, right? Because of that dirty pink brush I had, which I said was clean, so whatever. All right, I'm gonna fuse with the torch, right? So I'm holding the torch about 3 inches from the surface and I'm just, do you guys see when it just went like glossy? Yeah. I don't wanna get rid of the texture. I just wanna fuse, right? So it's kind of a hard thing to do with the torch is to fuse, but not get rid of the texture because it wants to hit it hard and liquefy it. But let's just say I do liquefy it, right? So in this corner down here, I'm going to totally liquefy it, right? So I'm staying here in the corner. I'm staying here in the corner. I'm staying here in the corner. So what's going to happen is the intensity of the heat is going to make the wax try to get away and it's going to merge with the gesso. It's like bubbling and it's moving. It's also moving into the wood, right? So a little more intense the heat, you're really putting the pressure on the wax and it's like, get me the hell out of here. I got to go. So you'll see like here, it went like away, moving forward or into the wax. So there's like no wax here anymore, right? There's like no wax here, right? It thickened up here and it went totally glass-like, right? But it also really made this whole new sort of like hanging lantern flower happen here, which I didn't even see before, okay? So sometimes like by pushing the envelope and like over fusing, you know, you start to get vision, right? You start to see things that maybe you didn't see before. So, you know, I like that. All right, so now I like this totally smooth, so I could decide that I'm gonna like scrape it back a little bit because it looks kind of thick here. So I could use a palette knife. I could also be using a razor blade, right? And I'm scraping back. And I can feel this raised gesso here. So I know that if I want this to be wax, I have to put a lot more wax on there. And there's no reason that I cannot, there's no reason I cannot paint just with wax medium for a long time. Is everybody clear on that? There's no limit to how many coats of wax medium you can put on a piece. Okay. You can put wax medium on, fuse, wax medium on, fuse, wax medium on, fuse, like step and repeat as many times as you want. Then you could slowly start to introduce a color with encaustic paint or not. You could introduce a color with pigment sticks. You could also introduce a color with pan pastel. Okay. You can also draw into this surface, right? So we did that earlier today where you actually start to draw into the surface, you know, or trace this floral, right? So here I'm seeing this flower here. I'm also seeing like this lantern flower here, right? So here's the flower, right? Here's the upper edge of the flower, right? And then you're kind of like seeing things, reacting, seeing things, reacting. And so it becomes like this rhythm, right? Of you and the wax moving together, right? And figuring out what flower shapes you're seeing here, right? So I see stems here, right? And I mean, I intentionally knew I wanted to make like a florally thing, right? Because that's what we're doing. So, so I guess I brushed the gesso on in florally gestures, but I mean, you can pick any flower and copy it, right? With some gesso on a board and make pieces like this. They're so inspiring and fun. And it's a nice way to get to know what the wax can do, right? What the heat and just the medium can do. Okay, so I did a couple lines like that. Now I can put another layer of wax medium on here, right? Or would you guys prefer to see a color? Do you want to see a color? I'll do both. I'll do an encaustic color and I'll do a pigment stick color, okay? And then we're going to move on back to the big piece, to the other pieces.
Lee,
Yes.
would you ever use India ink to put in those lines?
No, I don't use
Okay.
I don't use India ink on wax, but I know people do like shellac in India ink. I don't love shellac personally because I don't like things that are super shiny. So shellac to me is like a no-no. Like I don't like glossy photos. I don't like high gloss anything. So even though I like the texture of the shellac, I like the textures that it creates by the bubbling and stuff. I don't like shellac. I prefer tar. So
Okay.
tar is what, and I can show you tar is really nice, or pigment stick. Like, let me find a nice brown pigment stick. I'd prefer to put pigment stick in there or tar, but you could also put pan pastels in there. So hang on, let me go.
You buy tar at the art store, or where do you buy that?
You buy tar at Home Depot. It's actually asphalt. It's actually asphalt. I'll show you. Hold on. I of course want me to do the tar. You can grab the tar bucket over there. All right, I'm gonna do the tar. Rebecca's gonna grab it. So let me show you. I can show you pan pastels. I'm gonna show you pan pastels. I'll show you all. I'm gonna do it like in stripes. I'm gonna just put a little bit more wax medium on here. Okay, so these are the types of things that I do like all the time, like these. And we also remember too, like what else did we do today and yesterday? We did floral stencils, right? So if I add some floral stencils here to this underpainting of florals, right? And even if I was working on photo, that's just gonna, right, kind of reiterate that I'm working in these florals, right? So let me put, and I'm just gonna put them on with wax medium, just to have more texture, right? More design. And this is a fun, now you can see too, like I'm not using the stencil in its entirety, right? I'm really only using parts of it, right? Which I often think is much nicer than using it in the whole thing. Oh, that shit smells bad. And I'm gonna put one over here in the corner. Okay. Also, like sometimes, okay. So, oh, here, it's fine. It's fine. I need it. Oh, I know, but they want to see the jug. Here, I'm going to show you the container. So this is the tar. It's all weather. It's asphalt. Oh shit, asphalt. And I need the vegetable oil. And you must have a solvent. You have to have a solvent if you want to use the tar. So your solvent, right? We had solvents for the encaustic, for the pigment sticks, right? What was our solvent for the pigment sticks? I need that brush. Oh, I have the brush. Does anybody remember? What was
the blending stick?
Exactly.
coconut
Yep.
oil.
No?
Yep. The blending stick, right. So the solvent for the tar, you guys, is vegetable oil. Okay, so also I want to try to get more, wax texture too. So I'm going to kind of go over here. I'm going to really, so one of the things about getting, this brush is not great. You really have to use a bristly brush to get wax to brush with texture. So like you have to use a brush like this. And sometimes drier is better, right? So if it has less, do you see how I'm really getting the texture now? You see that? I had to really like extract a lot of, do you see that? How these bristles, right? I'm really getting texture. And then I'm crossing, like I'm talking like burlap, right? I mean, you could put burlap in here, but I think there's a lot of things that you can do with a brush that you don't need to start putting a ton of fabrics in here. But I really wanted to create a coarse texture in there. Now, if I want to fuse this, but I don't want to get rid of the texture, I need to use the heat gun instead of the torch, right? Because the heat gun is just going to be way more gentle on the texture and it's going to get the job done. And the job that it needs to do is just fusing those two layers together so that your encaustic is binding. Okay, so technically like we have a nice smooth area up here. We have lots of texture over here. We have some incising. I can do some more so you guys can have some, I'll just do some more line drawing, right? So as if there's, I'm just going to do some more line drawing like in these flowers. Just to give you guys an example. Okay, so the idea of creating the lines is that I'm going to put a color in there, right? I'm going to put something, okay, so a little bit more. All right, so I did, and also, right, the poking, right? So this is kind of a new, this is smooth. All right, so let's divide this into thirds, right? So one third we're going to do tar. 1/3 we're going to do pan pastel, and 1/3 we're going to do 1/3 we're pigment stick. Okay, you got it. And I think for educational purposes, because you guys are not here with me, let's just pick 3 colors. So anybody, let's just pick 3 colors. So wait, this is, hold on, I have to write this down. My brain, I'm tired. Wait, hold on. We're going to do tar. Wait, I think we should do tar on the dark side, right? So that would be brown and black together, you think? Come on, help me out here. We could do a light color here. What do you guys want to do? We have to do tar, pan pastel, and then we're going to do pigment stick. So let me, right? Tar, pan pastel, pigment stick. And in thirds, okay? So we could either do dark on light, or I think we should do dark on dark. I think we should
Dark on dark.
Okay.
I like the dark on dark.
Dark on dark?
Dark
Okay.
on dark.
Okay, so this is my crazy tar brush. It's like, okay, so
I see.
so the tar just goes, so I'm gonna do the whole third, right? So
Leia, does it matter if you do the pan pastels or the pigment stick in order, or which one do you do first?
that's a really good question. So let me talk about that in 1 second. Let me do all 3, Pooja, right? And
Sure.
that's a very good question. Hold that thought. Okay, so I really covered it, right? And I really rubbed it in here with this bristle brush, okay? So that should tell you how tough the wax is, right? That it's like standing up to literally being like scraped with a bristle brush. Okay, so it just proves its toughness, right? Next, this is my vegetable oil, right? My vegetable oil. And there's actually, Rebecca, in that box where the scissors are, there should be like a cotton clothy square thingy. It's brown. It looks like, well, yeah, you can give me that one. That's it, but there's one that's already brown. Okay, so I bought these to do tar because I ended up using the tar on my big pieces that are on exhibit in Philadelphia here. Just because I feel like wax wants to flatten out. Like it just gets so flat. It's like, stop being flat. And the only thing I felt that can really pop it right at the end is this tar technique. So anyway, it really worked. It's really been working for me. So this is like a cloth, a buffer cloth, and this is vegetable oil. And then you're really gonna like polish the you know, like really, you gotta really put some muscle into it. Oh wait, you guys can you see it? Here, can I go closer? Is that better? Is it too shiny?
Yeah, that's good.
Is that better?
It really makes it textury.
Isn't it beautiful? I mean, it's really
Like
beautiful.
the texture stand out.
Ooh,
Yeah.
it's almost antique. That's really, what a nice
It's
patina it
really
gives it.
beautiful. It's really beautiful. And
Yeah.
that looks like, this
Oh,
looks
wow.
like what, this looks like one of those gorgeous embroidered wallpaper walls,
Yes.
right? And I didn't
Yeah.
even have much,
Right.
I mean, come on, if you guys really painted some flowers like this and then put wax on it and drew on them, and then, I mean, come on. And then you could add some gold leaf to this, like talk about like beautiful, beautiful, right? All right, so this is this spongy thing is really cool too. I have no idea even where I got this thing, but okay. So look at that, right? I mean, come on, that's cool.
It
Now,
has like this tin type, calotype sort of look.
oh
which
yeah,
is-
totally. Okay, so now I could go paper towel, more vegetable oil, right? And then I could also go back to those other techniques that we've talked about too, where I could maybe, but I'm not, I think that's good. I'm gonna let it go. I think it looks great, right? I really do think it looks great. Okay, so the next one is pan pastel. Okay, so let's go for a pretty color. You wanna go for a red? We could go for a green, what color? Here, pan pastels, there's so many colors, right? So we could go purple,
Ooh.
green, blue, orange. We could make a color gray. I don't think we should do gray. What do you guys think? Green? Green? Oh, wait, here's more colors. Oh, this one could be pretty. You want to do this one?
Yeah.
Talk.
That one.
This
Yeah.
one? Yeah, like the terracotta one.
Yes.
Okay, so let me just. You guys are so cute. I like it when you're like with me on it. Okay, so these are like makeup sponges, right? So similar idea, right? Where we're gonna like dab and then. Similar, right?
Wow,
Now,
that really brings up the texture of what you did. It was harder to see what was going on until you added the different like toning, I guess you call it.
yeah, because wax is like, right, especially because it's like a neutral, like clear on top of a neutral clear, right? Could I go in here, you guys? Like I could, right? Do you see how I
Yeah.
just like went next door, right? Okay, so I went next door a little bit. Okay, now this can blend in, right? So it can blend in. I could also fuse it. Okay, so if I have a paper towel, right? I can blend the pan pastel in, right, by rubbing on it, right? And I can also hit it with the heat gun, right? So here, see how it's blending, right? I could actually theoretically also add another color, pan pastel, right? So I can blend as many colors pan pastel together too, okay? Right? Now, sometimes it gets a little sticky, right? Where it's not as like it wants to stick on. Do you see how I just did that? But then you can kind of blend it. right? And you can hit the high, I always call it the hierarchy, like the high guys, the guys that are sticking up, right? Which are the stencils, right? They're raised. So you can just like hit them a little bit, right? And this is, I'm just doing this with my finger. You could of course do it with an applicator. Okay. And then you could go over this as many times as you wanted to, right? You can tone back, right? You added color, but guess what? You can go back, right? Okay.
Mhm.
Now I can fuse this. And what happens when I fuse it is that the wax will like absorb, it'll expand, right? Heat makes it expand and it'll basically absorb the pan pastel. You see how it's absorbing the pan pastel?
Yeah.
So it's going to make it a little bit more translucent. You see how it went more translucent when I hit it with the heat gun, right? Okay, so that's that effect. Do you want me? And then I could do it again. There's no reason, right? I could do another coat. Does that make, right? I can hit it again. And I could hit it with another color. Here's orange. Right? Right?
Yep.
Okay, and then I can leave it dry. I don't have to fuse it. Right? It will stay on there. I don't have to fuse it, but I could fuse it, right? So if I fuse it, it's going to make it more translucent. You see how it spread out? It made it more translucent.
Yeah.
It kind of sets it back. Okay, and then I could hit it again. So what would be, I could hit it with a lighter color. So not here. Oh, that looks pretty.
Yeah, that is nice.
Because it's just hitting the raised, it's hitting the, I'm just hitting it so lightly, it's just hitting the outline. See that? It's outlining it. Oh, that's really pretty. Did you guys see how it,
Mm-hmm.
it's just hitting like this upper, oh, that's gorgeous, right?
You're getting highlights and lowlights.
Yeah, totally. All right.
Yeah.
All right. So the last one we're going to do is the pigment stick. So let's do, what color? Light blue. We could do light blue. We could do yellow. We could do orange. We could do gold. Do purple. Green.
Either, I'd say either blue or purple because you have the orange one there. Something contrasting would be
Mhm.
nice.
Yeah.
Purple or blue, maybe.
Oh, perfect. Purple. Yeah, and this goes back to what Bonnie was saying. Like, if you just saw this pigment stick, you have no idea what color this is, right? So it could be any color. It could be dark blue, dark gray, purple, black, but it's, so I put it on the white paper and I know it's purple, right? Okay, so this is, I'm going to show you a pretty aggressive way of using the Pampas or the pigment stick, but you know, it's all good. So this is going like with the stick, right? Straight on. Okay. Now, for those of you who were asking questions about the order of things, there's no reason why this pigment stick, because I fused this pan pastel, can't go right over that, right? You see that?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's totally kosher. And the opposite is also kosher. However, this would have to be, what do you think would have to happen to the pigment stick for the pan pastel to be able to go over it?
You
Fuse
probably
it.
have to fuse it.
You would have to fuse it, right? Because the pan pastel can't go over that oil. It'd be like trying to run on like an oily road, right? You'd slip, right? So that's what they're talking about like slippage, right? But you can take this pigment stick and you could add pigment stick purple anywhere outside these flowers. You could go over here and add pigment stick, right? Right? So that can be, and then you can blend it back down, right? So I just went over the tar with the pigment stick, no problem, right? And probably I have no problem with that because I have the vegetable oil over there. So the pigment stick's like, woohoo, vegetable oil, yay, right? Okay, so here we go with this. So I'm gonna start to rub it similar to how I did the tar, but this is a lot easier than the tar, right? It's a lot easier than the tar. And if I wanna make it thinner, I can add right? If I want to make it thinner, and what happens when it goes thinner is it increases its ability to go into all the nooks and crannies, right? Did you see that? So like before I added the extender, you couldn't see all these little tiny lines. You just couldn't see them. The pigment stick wasn't doing it. It was just kind of like ignoring them, right? But when you add the extender, you really get it to pay attention to all those tiny little spaces that the wax makes, right? Just because it's wax. That's why they're there, okay? Because wax is not solid. It has a life, and we marked it and we brushed it, right? So then you can really kind of control. Now, what if I wanted it to be a gradient like this, okay? What I could do is I could absolutely leave this pigment stick just like this thick down here, right? Or what else do you think I could do? What else could I do? If I could just leave it like this and let it dry, what else can I do to the pigment stick?
Put heat on it.
Yeah, I can fuse it. So I can literally fuse this pigment stick right into this wax. Let's see what happens. You see, so they just became one. They just melted together like glass fusion. They just literally melted together. You see that? And it spreads it out because of course, like see how the wax is moving. Now, the thing that I don't love about the heat gun is that it has a fan in there and it often gets this kind of like, you know, like veiny, like cellular kind of like expansion. I don't love that, but you know, I could put another layer of purple over here to kind of fill in those white spaces. I mean, you might like it, right? So if you like it, that's fine. What else could I do what else could I add here to make this all purple?
And pastel.
Yeah, I could go back to my pan pastels, exactly. So I can go to the purple pan pastel, right? And let that be what it is, because it is what it is. And if I don't like those openings, I can tone it or kind of like spot it, fill it in, and blend it a little bit with purple pan pastel. Okay, so hopefully this was helpful. I mean, this is sort of, I think, a nice way. I've done things like this before on Zoom where I've just actually done like two techniques, you know, and it's kind of like 6 of one, half dozen of the other. It's like a similar effect, but it's just doing it a different way and using different materials, right? But these materials can go back, they can lace over each other, right? They can mix together, right? They can go in layers, okay? The fusing is essential though to layering them. Does that make sense? Because if you don't fuse them, they're loose, right? And then they can move around. But see, now I'm kind of like putting the pigment stick in and kind of, right? And again, I can rub it. And what else could I do to this too? If I didn't like this like so solid purple, what else could I do to it?
You could scrape it.
Exactly. I could scrape it. I could scrape it, right? Because especially like down here, I have some 3D stuff, which maybe is kind of interesting. So if I didn't want it that dark, I can take my razor blade or my palette knife, right? And I can start to think about going back to the wax medium. And again, like I can't necessarily control exactly what's gonna lift here, but I'm just know that I'm gonna like let the light in, right? So I can clean my blade. I could do the same thing over here, right? I can just kind of open it up. I always like consider this like opening it up, right? And lightening it, and then we can blend it back. Okay, was that helpful?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, very.
Okay, and I will take a picture of this piece and I will write like a notes on it too. The other thing I like to remind people is that like you want to, because we're photographers too, we understand light, right? Where's the light coming from in this piece? It's coming from
Top
where?
right.
It's coming from right here, right? So I could even do something kind of a little bit cliche, but to represent that the light's coming from here, right, is just kind of add some, right, a little bit of white. And I also, if I wanted to make these flowers more 3-dimensional, I can go on top of them and hit them with a little bit of highlight white too, right? Right, so I'm hitting this right outside because the light's coming from here, so I'm reflecting the light quality and putting a little highlight light on the outside edge, right? Also, I could do it here, right? There's no reason I can't add a little bit of light to some of these petals, right? Because nothing's one color, right? So we have to think about gradients and tonality, right? And that really helped a lot, especially these flowers over here, right? Okay, better?
Yeah.
All right. Cool, super cute. All right, I still think this purple spot is too dark, but that's okay.
Too solid, yeah.
It's too solid, but you know, I don't have to, I'm not gonna work on it right now, I'll work on it. But I could, I mean, just breaking it up with a little white. I could also do, oh, this is kind of cool too. So can you guys still hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so you can do stencils.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay. Sorry, sometimes when it goes like radio silence, I don't know if I lost you guys. So you can do stencils with pan pastels too, right? So we could do, this is a little sticky, but I'm gonna hit it with the heat gun. And then this can now become a background, right? So if it's not working out as a subject matter or foreground, I can put something on it and make it a background, right? So I can put something over top of it. And this is why, again, like it kind of reminds me of thinking back to Andy Warhol, you know, how he chose his background color, he chose his mid-tone color, then he chose his foreground, then his foreground, right? Up to the finest details. So I just have to find, I could do it with yellow, or I could do it with this green. So basically, I'm gonna add a pan pastel design, right, to this, right? Because this, I'm not crazy about this purple thing. I just don't think it's very, so I'm just gonna kind of, now this is gonna become a background. And the reason I'm just making it smooth is because it's hard to do a stencil if it's not smooth, right? And I'm just gonna blend it a little bit. Now that looks kind of cooler, right? So it's gonna be a background and these flowers are gonna go like over here. So this is the pan pastel, right? Going in the stencil. Okay. Now I could do another layer of wax on here too, right? Oh, something just happened.
Yep.
Something happened. What happened? What? Oh. Sorry. Okay, that was my mom. Sorry, that was my mom. Okay. All right, so let's see how this turned out. And I'm kind of like dabbing it because I'm a little afraid to wipe it just because I'm not sure how sturdy it is. So it's cute though, right? It's very soft, but it's cute. Let's see. It'll pop up a little bit more if I squeeze it. All right. I'm gonna let that go at that. All right, but now it's sort of getting there. All right. So let's move on. And I will take a picture of that and I'll make sure that I write down the thirds, right? So I wrote it down on my table. We did tar on the far left, pan pastel, and then pigment stick plus pan pastel, I guess, at the end. Okay. So I was going to go back to this piece. It's almost 4 o'clock and I wanted to start the big piece with you guys too. I don't think we'll finish the big piece, but that's fine. Yeah. So what I'm really thinking about this one is that it's got like just too much on it right now. So it's kind of like you have to work yourself up to a point, I think, and then you have to sort of start taking away, right? So often I'd feel like if you don't go far enough, you don't really know what to take away, right? Because you just haven't gone far enough. So that's why you kind of, I always feel like, you know, it's better to go too far and go back than not far enough. And I know it's terrifying, but it's like you have to be able to sort of like see through it. Unless you know, of course, that you just want to stay really simple. But once you start layering, I think you have to add a couple layers to get it to work. So I'm going to start scraping back. One of the other things I could do is add some more wax medium, right? So wax medium is just gonna kind of neutralize things for me. So I could add some wax medium over here, but I really need this body to have a shape, right? And I need my foreground and my background to kind of separate, because right now what's happening is that everything is on the same plane, right? It's kind of like on a boat. Like if everybody sits on the same side of the boat, it's going to tip over, right? It's not going to be balanced. It's not going to work. So people have this has to move around. So my clearest area is definitely up here, right? And I did that with the 4-inch Hake brush, right? So, and I know that's perfect, right? But I don't think that's enough information to make the rest of the piece like interesting. So I'm going to try to make it all a little bit more interesting. And so one of the things I'm going to try to do is, rather than add more, is I'm going to start to try to subtract. Okay. So I think that's a really fun part of encaustics too, is sort of that ability to use subtraction as an art making tool, right? Because most art making tools are about addition, 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 right? Okay. So I want to create this space right here where the skirt is. So this is where I'm going to start to dig out. And I think honestly, another way that you can neutralize something is by adding a layer of wax medium. So because this is so busy, I'm going to coat this whole side with wax medium. And that's going to do exactly what we talked about earlier, which is just going to blend this, right? We talked about it, right? It's going to make it fuzzy, right? Less focused, and it's going to tone it down. Okay, so I'm just taking wax medium, going over top of all of these crazy stenciled flowers, right? And I'm going to do a little bit more wax medium over here to kind of smooth this side out. Okay, and I'm going to fuse it. And then I'm going to start scraping away. So I'm a little bit nervous about scraping away on this with a razor blade, because it's not mounted to a board, right? But I definitely feel like I need to do almost an archaeological dig back to my photo, because I've gone so far, right? I've gone so far. All right. I'm going to give it just a second just to chill out. And again, like when you're in between stuff, you can always think about, you know, little drawings, little incising drawings, like along your flower line. You know, leaves and stems are beautiful for incising. Tracing the flowers is beautiful. You know, just kind of spending some quiet time drawing into the wax around the florals is beautiful, right? So here I am, like tracing all of these magnolia flowers, just kind of really incorporating the idea of drawing and painting. And I'm also just really kind of technically waiting right now for my wax to cool down so I can scrape it, right? But this could be really an important part of the work here. Adding this like intimacy and close like detail work, right? So I think it's nice to have fine line or areas that are sharp, right? And small, that bring the eye into the work, right? Because the wax is kind of rough and blurry. Okay. So I could trace my bodice too, right? I could kind of incise this line along my mannequin body. I like this flower right here for sure. He's going to be an important one, this one right here. Okay. And you could always make up more flowers, right? So once I had spent that time drawing over there, I've kind of memorized the pattern of the magnolia, right? So I could just kind of be like, oh, let's draw some more imaginary magnolias over in this space, right? So there's more, right? And if you don't remember the magnolia, right? any flower, right? Make up flowers, you guys. Make your own flowers, right? And honestly, when you start putting flowers on top of flowers, they just sort of make themselves, right? I mean, you just sort of start to see, or I do at least, I just start to see flowers in here. Okay, so that was kind of fun. All right, I'm gonna do a little bit of scraping back. And what I'm scraping back for is right along this line, right? So it's here in the mannequin body, and it's gonna be here, and here where the top of the skirt is, right? I need to get some thin areas, right? To sort of balance out all my thick areas, right? So I'm playing a balancing game. I'm trying to even the weight, right? So I don't mind if it's heavy on the outside, but I don't want it totally the same weight everywhere. So it's looking good. And if it's too hard to scrape back, you can always use a little heat element, right? To give you the upper hand, right? On scraping back. And I don't ever mind if it's just an area that's straight photo, right? Or photo with just a little bit of wax. I think that I need that in my work to kind of draw people in. And also I took the photo, like, right? I don't want to completely abandon it, right? I want there to be elements of the photo.
That's the push-pull, isn't it?
This is
Trying
the
to figure out
yeah.
how much of the photo to show and how much to draw the eye in. That's
Well, I mean, there's a couple things. I mean, this was pretty self-explanatory. I mean, if it's all flowers, I think you just have to pick a flower. For me, I need the mannequin bodice to kind of make sense of this. And I really like the idea of the flowers really falling on this side, right? So this side is going to go, I'm going to end up making it pretty simple and quiet. So it's going to just be a heavy, like left-handed arch. So it's going to start here and the flowers are going to drape over, you know, and they're going to get bigger as they go to the bottom, right? So I've kind of decided on my narrative. So now I just need to get my wax and my color and my composition to sort of like follow what I know I want in my head. So I agree with you 100% that you need to make some type of decision, right? About where your focal point is, right? And if you're dealing with a still life tabletop floral situation, or you're dealing with a on the ground, you know, flower arrangement, yeah, you're gonna have to pick an area, right? Or a flower, right?
Yeah.
Or a couple flowers that are gonna be the focal point. Does that make sense?
yes, it does.
And then everything else can kind of like fall off or around that.
I'm also curious to see how you do with the blacks in the bigger photo.
Yeah, me too. Me too. All right. Yeah. So, and at a certain point, I just know, like, I can't really adding any more wax to this piece is not going to do me any good, right? So really, you sort of start to run out of your superpowers, you know, at a certain point. The things that you could decide, like I could decide now, is, you know, what colors do I want, right? And then I can figure out what I want to use to color it. And I need to do a little bit of that, like Andy Warhol thing. Like I need to figure out what color this background is going to be. And I think it has to be light. Like it has to either be white or neutral white. Or
definitely, yeah, you can't go too dark because then you're just not gonna.
Well, then it won't have
right.
any contrast over here.
Yeah.
So I think I'm actually gonna go, for whatever reason, I want to go like a. I don't want to go green and I don't want to go brown, but I don't want to go bright white. So I'm kind of. Hang on, I'm gonna go camel color. I definitely think some type of beigey I'm low on like ochre colors, like yellow, like, you know, like fall yellows. I'm low on those colors. So, and that's of course what I'm thinking I want right now, but I do have this, which is really nice. This is really nice. So this is either, do you guys see that? It's like extra pale yellow, right? And then I could put a little bit of magenta in it, or I could put a little bit of, that's too bright, wait. No, but I kind of like that. I kind of like that. All right, let me go for it. All right, so I'm thinking about, it's kind of bluish, it's like very pale bluey. Oh, I like it. All right, so, and it especially needs to go like over here, right? And I can go right over the wax that's kind of distracting me right there, right? And I could also use my woody crayons to help me out a little bit here too. Oh, this is where I can get my brown from. Okay, hold on, I figured out where I'm gonna get my brown from. So I can kind of sharpen this line, right? So again, like, right? This is the woody crayon. So I can come in, I can kind of reestablish this. And again, this could be like super sketchy, right? This drawing, it doesn't have to be specific. And I can like blend it down, but that's a nice color. And you can always use a paper towel too to kind of get this. All right, I'm gonna spend just a few more minutes on this one. Sometimes too, because I wanna show you guys that other piece and work on it with you, I might switch gears, but then I'll keep you posted. I mean, or you'll see on my Facebook when I'm able to finish this one. But do you see how even just putting this like color over here, I'm like creating a shape for the form, right? You see how, and the blue is nice actually in contrast. So now it
I
has
love
like
the blue.
yeah, me too. But I really like it with this neutral. So me too. And I'm not trying to be too little, right? I think that's like a hard learning curve with the encaustic, but it just can't be too little. It has to be like you're just like suggesting, you know, just like maybe
It has to be
there's
loose.
it has to be loose. Exactly, that's a great word. It has to be loose.
Yeah, and I'm not loose is terrible.
Well, it's sort of. I think the medium really almost forces you to be loose because,
Mhm.
or else you're just feeling like so frustrated and like you're just
Yeah.
not doing it right. And I don't think that's the case. I think you know that it's just it's kind of like you need to see an apple for an apple, right? You need to kind of like you know start to understand what the medium actually is capable of doing, right? And again, like for me, like this type of shading, you know, to get the form, like I might do this for, you know, a couple hours before I get the shape right. Right. But again, it can go on. The nice thing about it for me with the wax and the pigment sticks is I can literally go on, off, you know, as many times as it takes. Does that make sense? And I can go over
Yes.
it. So I don't feel as pressured to like get it right the first time. And I can also, you know, like gradient it. And now some people can do this really well with pan pastels. But for me, I don't get as much flow and movement from the pan pastels as I can from the pigment sticks. So that could be just like an individual thing. But I think both are capable of this type of work. I just think for me personally, based on you know, my finger painting style and how I like to kind of like add and subtract and like rub in, it just works for me.
Okay, Leah, can you remind me, okay, that white with your pigment sticks, is that gesso or is that
No, this is white.
white
This is-
pigment?
yeah, this is a big.
Oh, it's white.
Yeah, this is white. This is titanium white. And
Okay.
this is the extender.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so I'm gonna, and I mean, again, like I could, you know, I don't know when, I'm not gonna force myself to finish this, but let's just say that like this is the light side, right? And this is gonna be like light and airy. So I could make this other side like the dark side, right? So, you know, I
I
can
think
start,
it's really beautiful now.
yeah, I think it's getting closer. I think like, so, right, so I can go back, I can start painting these flowers now. Right, so what I'll start to do is like lift these flowers by painting them individually and then create like a foreground and background, right? So that these will start coming up, these flowers, right? And a lot of times too, like I'll kind of have scraped down the stencil so much that I almost don't recognize it, but I'm still just sort of following that magnolia form, right? And like even here's one, right? And I can kind of like, and then I'll start to hone in the color tone, right? So as they're getting like darker towards the bottom. And then they might even need some like green.
It's getting so much dimension now. It's beautiful.
Right, so now it's sort of starting to get that like push and pull that I want, right? And then I could start adding, you know, the darker colors at the bottom, you know, and even like here too. So here, this will help a lot too, right? So then it's just time. It's really just time, you know, but this has come a long way. I mean, it still has a long way to go, but if you guys want, I can start working on that other big piece. I don't think I'm going to finish it. I don't think this is going to be an easy, this is going to need a lot. It's going to need a lot of work, but it's coming along.
Can I just ask you to explain? So when you're looking at this and you're thinking it needs a lot more work, where's your mind going with that? Because, for example, I think it's beautiful. So I'm wondering what your thought process is as you're working on this and where you want to go with it.
Well, there's a lot of areas, especially up here at the top, that I haven't touched yet, and also like it's too it's not unified. Like the layers aren't woven together enough for me. Like they're just kind of like sitting. It's like all the ingredients are there, but they're not blended together yet. Right.
Okay.
So like, did you see how even just there, like I lifted the center and kept the outsides like darker? So like that type of realistic like nuance needs to happen all over, like in all these flowers, right? Like, and I think this side, I'm going to leave it like, I love how this is happening. Like just that it's like this little line drawing over here. But what needs to happen is there needs to be a gradual phase from the line drawing into this like form, so that it's telling the story, that it's like moving from like, you know, almost like it's forming, like it's moving from like a seed, it's blooming, and then it's coming into full bloom down this side. Right. So
and your eye would follow it then.
Right. So you're right. So you're going, and it's going in the semicircle around the dress, right? Also, the dress form itself is not at all formed, right? So so the skirt actually needs to be formed. So it probably needs to be waxed again with those ruffles so that it actually has form. It can't just be, I can't rely that much on people's imagination to believe that there's actually a skirt there. You know what I mean? I actually have to do more work on it to make the skirt appear. So those are a couple things. Also just this constant like pushing and pulling of lights and darks, right? So going along the outside edge with a dark color, right? And then blending. So just like I did here, like, and even here a little bit, like if I use that same like dark color in there, that makes the shape, right? And then I kind of can blend it out, right? So it's like adding and subtracting and blending these layers together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One more question.
Please.
How would you, when you get all done with that, if you wanted to attach it to a book panel, how would you do that?
Yeah, so I just do exactly what I do. I just cover the panel or the back of the paper with PVA glue and just lay it on there. It'll just go right on there. I think I showed you guys some examples of pieces that it actually works really well. I think it's going to be my new thing because it's really hard to be able to afford. And also for me physically, I think I'm even going to try to work on bigger pieces of paper. They're easier for me to move around the studio, right? And like, they're not as heavy. Like when I did the 48 by 60s, like there were points like, you know, that I had to call my husband, you know, to move my panel, right? Because I, you know, even though I had it on sawhorses, like I needed to switch panels or lift one up and put another one down. I mean, they're heavy and they take up space, but if you work on paper, it's easier to store, right? And less expensive. And then when you have a really good one, then you can mount it onto the board. Or if you know you're going to have a show, right? So it could be a way to kind of keep it all a little bit more financially. Oh my God, you guys, did you see when I just started to shade this corner? This just
Wow.
helped so much. Did you guys see that? That just totally changed everything. This corner right here.
You're getting a good transition now. It's like a bridge.
Right. So it's coming
Yeah.
closer to the transition. And then what needs to happen is that this dress needs to actually like it needs to get raised up with wax, right? So that it's actually 3D and this becomes the background and this becomes the foreground, right?
Mhm.
So that this is this garden that's kind of wrapping behind and across over here, but the rest is back. Okay, so this is to be continued. Okay, say bye-bye. But you guys, that was, okay, say bye-bye. All right, bye-bye. But it's coming along. It's actually, I think, gonna be pretty. Okay. So, right, so that's a really good, and actually, I just love that idea that we just came up with of really working on huge pieces of paper and being able to move them around more easily and hang them on the wall, work on them on the table, and then put them away, and then mounting them. With the PVA glue, you just really want to make sure that you're rolling it and you're putting it on like nice, thick, you know, like you're making like a mattress for your piece of PVA glue, right? And then because it's nice and waxy, it shouldn't have any air bubbles, and you're literally just gonna like lay it down and pat it, right? You're not gonna scrape it. You're gonna like pat it, right? And I've done up to 16 by 20. So it'll be, but I think if you just set it down on the PVA glue and let the glue and the paper just do their thing, I think you're gonna be fine. You could test it. You could do, and you know, it could be really cool too, is to do like floral encaustics on paper and then like strip them, you know, and then collage them back together on a board.
Huh, that's really cool too.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah. Use your encaustic. Yeah.
Yeah, you'd use your encaustic floral paintings. You know, I'd love to see if anybody actually does that. And then like put them back like light, dark, or bluish, you know, blue, yellow, right? And something like that. Anyway, okay. So I'm gonna work on the big one on the board, and I think I'm gonna go for the dark one, right? I'm gonna go for the dark one. Is that right? Everyone's in favor of that?
I agree with that decision.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so yeah, so dark is terrifying and working on black is hard. So I could do a couple things. I don't actually have black gesso in my studio, and I could add a ton of black watercolor. No, I'm just not going to do that. So I'm just going to go, I think I'm going to get my black from burning the wood. So that just seems like my knee-jerk reaction to this situation. And I don't know that I'm going to add, oh, you know what? I'll add a little bit of encaustic gesso just to kind of help me break up some of these lines. So, and also, okay, so watch. So do you see how like here, her lace just kind of stops? So I don't like things to stop, right? You don't like things to end, right? So so I have the perfect opportunity just to, you know, just to extend this, right? Just to kind of, why not, right? Make it a little bit bigger. Also here, I'm not sure I love this shape, but what if this shape was like, I think it needs to be, I think she needs to be dipping down. If she's falling down, I don't think she would just like stop right there. So sometimes I like to just take these little imaginary leaps into the unknown, right? And just, because guess what? If I don't like it, I could definitely make it go away. Okay, and also like here, I don't love that. So I can just, right? So again, like, why not, right? All right, and also like I could kind of just go over her. I could just add a little bit of paint to any of these guys. I could make more of these flowers, right? So I can, you know, I don't love these lines either, so I can kind of blend them down by just adding some more zinnias or dahlias or whatever the heck these are, right? And I can kind of pop flowers that I have here, right? So already like it's just getting more integrated, right? Because I'm just like, you know, I'm blending. This is blending techniques, right? These little flowers are super cute and they can be bigger. And also I'm always thinking about like, if is this space interesting or could it be more interesting? And why not? And again, like these are this is bottom feeder, right? This is bottom layer. Like who knows if I'll see any of this stuff, but maybe. Also, I know that if I'm gonna burn, like here, I know if I'm gonna burn, the encaustic gesso is not gonna burn. So I can create this positive and negative patterning here between gesso and board. Okay, because so this could be cool. So okay, so now I'm gonna burn. All right, so I'm gonna do the bottom, right? I hope I don't set if I set my computer on fire, it was nice knowing you guys. No, I'm just kidding. So I like the way the wood is kind of doing its own thing, right? And it's not totally black, right? It's also like not black. It's like dark brown, right? So I can decide, you know, how far. Is that enough, you think? Or should I go higher? I think that's good. Maybe we'll just leave that upper part light.
Yeah, I was wondering if you were gonna like hit the photo a little bit.
Well, also,
with the
yeah, because
torch,
it's
too.
so dressed, it's so stark white. It's so
Yeah.
white. It's so white. Yeah, and I can hit some of these flowers. Yeah, it just doesn't. You never know what it's gonna do. Like it could start to fall apart now, but whatever. I'm just gonna. I'll put wax on it pretty quick, and like especially like these white edges that I cut these could be cool.
So you're kind of like taking away your sharp edges and blending things together, and
Yeah, I'm using
on the first layer.
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
Yeah.
Right, because it was a pretty chunky collage. I mean, really, you know, I mean, like, yeah, professional collage artists would be like, yeah, right. What are you, crazy? Right? so, I mean, yeah. So, you know, you can't be great at everything, but you know, if you're, you know, you put a couple things that you're good at together, hopefully they all equal, you know, greatness. So I can now too, like I didn't sand this before, but now this might be a good opportunity to hit it with a little sandpaper just to see, you know, what happens. Again, like it's blending, you know, and I'm getting a lot of this cool charcoaly dust, which is kind of nice. So I don't know, you know, if it's gonna stay on here. You can kind of rub, but look at these nice shapes now. Right, the textures are getting really good. Also, like I'm getting rid of that white line on my concrete floor, right? I can dodge her hair a little bit. So yeah, it sort of starts to come, you sort of start to feel like it's coming together. Blending, exactly blending. Right, and I'm not gonna blow, I have a lot of like debris here too. I'm not gonna blow it because I don't want it all over my table. So I'm gonna take it off my table.
Mhm.
Okay, but I think that looks pretty good. I'm a little bit afraid of her dress, but all right. So here we go. Ooh. She definitely looks angely now. So we can decide how much of that wing thing, you know, maybe it was too much, but I can get, you know, I can shape it or do whatever with it. Maybe it's too wingy.
Mhm.
But I don't need to worry about that really right now. All right, I need to just dry the rest of the gesso. But I definitely like the bottom. You know, I like the little starlety things down here. And I could get rid of this pretty easy. So one of the ways I can get rid of that, how wingy this is, right, is I can take, you know, again, like spotting, just breaking down the white, right? So anything, I could use dark gray, right? Just so, and then blending, right? So that makes it a lot less, right, obvious. And then when I put wax over it, who knows if you'll even see that. But I do love this outside line right here, right? Of her shoulder is pretty, and her hairline, right? And you could always expand her hair. Okay. So the next thing I'm going to do, I'm just going to make sure this is all dry, right? Because this isn't dry. So I'm just going to make sure it's all dry. And then I'm going to just start doing coats of wax medium, right? And also because this is such a busy collage, I don't know how much encaustic painting I'm actually going to do. Like, you know what I mean? You have to really take into consideration like what you're working on, right? So I would say the more, can you guys hear me with the fan, can you guys hear me when the dryer's on?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So what I was going to say is that like, I think that sometimes like the more simple imagery you do, the more complicated encaustic you can do, right? And now I've done this like super complicated freaking collage. So there's no way I can do a ton of complicated wax on this. Like it would be just, it would be unbearable, you know? I mean, and don't get me wrong, like I love complicated paintings, but I think based on the scale of this and how much room there is, my goal with the wax is to quiet this, you know, really quiet this down, like lullaby this, right? Like really sweeten it up and soften it, right? And also play around with those planes of focus, right? Like what needs to be sharp, right? And what needs to be blurry, right? And I have no idea right now. I'm just not like in the headspace to even consider what freaking colors this thing should be. So, like, you know, again, like, you know, probably gonna go for red. I'm probably gonna go like black, white, and red. I don't know why, but maybe there should be some yellow. I don't know. Like, okay, I don't know. All right, these guys don't really want to dry. So again, let's just wax it. So are we happy with the underpainting? The only thing I don't know about, I could go totally white up here, but I kind of like it natural. What do you guys think? This is
Like, I want to know how you're going to deal with that straight line, the straight lines from the photo.
This one? This
Yeah.
straight line? Oh, it's going to be gone as soon as I put the wax on there.
Okay.
And I'm going to soften this line though. I remember how much I said I loved it. Well, I just think I loved it too much. You know, and like, so again, like love, like, but I love this. Do you guys see this?
Mm-hmm.
This is beautiful, right? And some of these flowers, and I love this too. I love that, like, I just love like this little flower right here. Just this little stem right here.
Yeah.
Yeah, none of these lines are going to matter. So, and also you have to remember, like, there's a lot of different thicknesses of paper on here too, right? So
Yeah.
let's see what happens. I mean, we're just going to wax it and see what happens. I just want to make sure it's clean. One of the things that I don't have in my studio, but I've been seriously considering getting is a can of compressed air. Did anybody ever use compressed air? And like my husband
Yeah.
he uses compressed
Yeah.
air because he builds motors. So he has compressed air because you can't close a case with dirt in it in a motor, right? So, but I don't have any over here, but I'm thinking about getting it. I'm just going to make sure there's no gesso. But I think definitely the sandpaper and sort of fading the sharpness of some of these pictures is really important because honestly, like a lot of my photos that I take with film that you might see me even on Instagram or something, I've been shooting with the view camera, right? So like a lot of the pictures that I wax, you guys, are already like 50% out of focus. Okay. And so for me, even like with this thing, it's like, holy smokes, it's a lot of information and they're all in focus.
Yeah, so it's really sharp.
Right. It's
Yeah,
super
your flowers
sharp.
are really sharp.
Right.
Yeah.
Super sharp. Right. So if I could go back, and this is something you guys are so like helping me so much. I can't even believe it. But honestly, like the next time I freaking take pictures of flowers that go in a freaking collage, I'm going to shoot them out of focus with the digital camera because that was something that was always really kind of important to me in using the view camera was sort of being able to like say like, oh, here's my figure. She's going to be in focus, but her dress is going to be totally out of focus. And the flowers on her head are going to be out of focus. And the background trees are going to be out of focus. So this is really like a big aha moment for me right now because like, as much as I love the power of these, like they're so intense, right? So the sandpaper is definitely, now we have another, right, use for the sandpaper is that it definitely breaks down the sharpness of the image. Okay, so not only does it add all this texture and work to lighten the image, but look, you see how it made it fuzzier? Like it just made it, this one is, it just softened it,
Yeah,
right?
it
It's
did.
so much better, right? Because it was just like TMI, right? TMI. And
Too
really you
much
got
information.
too much. And you really want the eye to like come in here, but you want it to stay here, right? Like we decided like this is the sweet spot, right? So one of the things that I started doing too, and if we had more time together, I started doing translucent glazing with encaustic where I would cut a window and then I would use the reverse of, so if this is my window of sharpness, I would like trace it like an oval, but then I'd cut the oval out. And then I would put the oval over her and wax around her.
Okay, so you'd use like a like
a reverse stencil.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yes, yeah.
So rather than stenciling to add detail,
you'd mask her out like you would in Photoshop. You'd use a mask and
I'd mask her out.
and then,
yes, exactly. Yeah. Right. Exactly. So I'd mask
Well,
her out.
You are making her out of like the flowers out of focus anyway with the wax.
Yeah, but I've never. Yeah, but so yeah, I am. But right, and I can do that. But I think that it would just help. Like if I'm gonna make these like composite-y compositions, I think that it could be fun to play around with variably in focus, out of focus imagery of flowers. Like I just think that could be like another exercise to try as I put them together in collages. Like, and when I'm photographing them, I just think it'd be another fun thing to do is to take some pictures that are out of focus.
Yeah.
Okay. So here I go with the wax medium, right? So again, same things apply. You know, if I go straight and steady, it's going to be smooth. But this is a bigger piece too. So when you start working larger, you know, your 4-inch Hake brush becomes what your 2-inch Hake brush was, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
because
And like,
you have more.
yeah, when you start working like 30 by 30 or 30 by 40, then you're like, where's my 6-inch brush, So it's just scale.
Have you ever blended different photos from different photo shoots in a collage?
Yeah,
Like
that's,
some, you have, yeah. Okay.
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
So again, that just goes back to that whole, that whole Andy Warhol thing where you can literally, you could be putting your flowers, on a horse, you could be putting them on, all around on a house, on a rooftop,
Yeah.
right? You can
Yeah.
have, I'm sure you've seen a lot of designers do these pictures of women where they like open the top of their heads and fill the top of their heads with flowers, right? I mean, flowers for skirts,
Yeah.
that's kind of, these ideas, artists share, we as artists, we share these ideas and then everybody comes at them from their own, experience and perspective, and adds to the conversation. Like, flowers, people have been painting flowers and photographing flowers since, in the history of our life, the world, right? So, we're all just taking our turn at these mediums. Hold on 1 second. Can you please call Barbara? She's called me like 3 times. And just tell her I'm busy for like another half hour. Okay, so I have a nice layer of encaustic medium. So I can definitely fuse this and kind of like process, what's going on. And then I can make my next decision, right? Okay, and my next decision can be, add encaustic paint, add more medium, right? So you can kind of go down your list, right, of tricks in your bag. So
That's
I see
looking so beautiful.
you like it?
Yeah.
Oh, you guys are so nice.
I love the burned parts.
I know. They're really nice. I know.
They really are.
Yeah, they're really nice. They're very organic and they're so
Yeah.
optimistic. Yeah, they've really been like a great addition to my workflow. And I really learned about burning when I went to Lexington, Kentucky too. And fusing, like, I mean, just like look at it now, like, like just taking the time to fuse it. I definitely think it needs another layer of medium. I can see where the photo's coming through, right? And I don't want that. So I want at least the soft. I can see, like because some of these flowers are thick, so you can see where they're coming through. So I definitely gonna need another coat of medium, and I'm just gonna let it chill out for a second. And I've got plenty of time. Like I can see it kind of pooling up in certain areas, which is fine. And this is a raised edge up here, so I can just wait. I'm still not getting much of a vision about color, but and I don't know. We'll see. So I think too, this might have to go darker and like I'm gonna have to work to get rid of some of these spots that are so spotty.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm also gonna have to work to get like a good flow on her dress, because one of the things that's happening too is that I've lost.
Yeah, she's getting to be a big white blob, and you lost your definition or your detail, or.
Yeah, so how do you get her to not be a big white blob?
Exactly.
Right. So yeah, that's why you photograph them naked and you paint their clothes on. No, for real. It's so much better.
I know you're not kidding, but yeah.
No, it's for real, because it's just so much easier to, or at least topless with a skirt on is so much easier than a full dress, especially a dress with sleeves, right? Because it's very hard for me to, except for her shoulder, it's very hard for me to reestablish her body. I mean,
Yeah,
But
right. 'cause
if
You lost,
she-
you lost all her angles.
right. But if she was naked, I would not have that problem. Right.
Mhm.
Also, really getting the fabric to look believable and like falling is also really hard. So that's okay. It is what it is. We'll try. I mean, and again, like I could, kind of take her torso and fudge it. So we'll see. See how I do. And again, it doesn't have to be, really the focus can be shifting much more to the flowers, right? Much more to the floral aspects of the piece. And I think that's ultimately what will happen is that
Mhm.
this will become much more about a floral painting. And then somewhere, there happens to be this, girl having this floral dream that's going to become,
Hmm.
a lot less about her and more about these flowers. So that's really what I'm feeling needs to happen. So it's just like, how am I going to make that happen? And I think, I can start playing around with the floral stencils and the, again, like the shapes of these flowers. And then, you can like make a decision too, like that and head down that road and then, either get like the aha and find something else or, change your mind, right? So all those things are good too. Okay. So that's a pretty good layer. That's a pretty good layer. And I feel like most of my layers are blending. Okay. So I'm going to fuse it again. Right. So now, yeah.
When you think of a workflow, like do you follow oh, I did this, now maybe I could do that?
Yes. That's what I was just, yes, that was exactly what I was just talking about. So first I first I did the photo shoot, right? Then when yesterday in our workshop, we were talking about scale. So you guys kind of inspired me to print that group of pictures, right? So I printed those still life photos and the photo of Rebecca. Then I laid out the collage. You guys kind of helped me lay out the collage. Then I did the underpainting, which included like burning a little bit at gesso. Now I did the wax medium. And from here, if you guys remember what I did earlier today and yesterday, my next thing would be to probably draw on it. So I usually go for the drawing, right? Because even when I look at it on the screen, like I'm seeing a beautiful floral composition. And what's really exciting for me is these little flowers and the stems. So it's becoming so much less about her, but I'm loving the supportive flowers, which are kind of these viney things. So I really have the power to take this and transition it from this subject to the flowers as the main subject. And I think that's ultimately what has to happen. I really think that that's going to be the best for everything. And really that was like the theme of our weekend was really the flowers. So the next thing I do is really try to focus on the composition of lights and darks and shapes. And I'm just loving the flowers. So like I'm liking like her, even just her hand and these flowers kind of coming out of her hand right here. So her hand is here. And so I'm starting to see this like bouquet that starts out small and is just exploding out the top, right? So I'm just going to start like drawing. And then I get to know the image, right? And start to see composition. So I'm like tracing the floral elements in these stems, right? And I'm loving these circles, right? So I'm loving these little white circles I put in here, like over here, right? And I actually happen to have this amazing stencil, which I might need to add, which is basically a bunch of circles and lines, but it looks super, actually it's perfect. Let me go grab it. Hang on one second. So does anybody see the resemblance, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. That really does mirror those little flowers you got going.
Right. So, and look
Really-
at this. So this is how I like to line up the lines, right? So here's her hand, right? And this is how I did my last really successful piece was here's her hand, right? So the world, so it's coming out of her hand. So do you see, I literally can
Mhm.
take this end and then this can go to this and it can all go. Now I could flip it and it could go the other way. So it could go from her hand this way, this way, all the way up into that corner. So I don't know. What do you think? Which side? And I'll do it with encaustics. So, but really, I think that the pieces speak to you. I mean, that might sound really cliche, but I think, that if we're listening and just trying, that they really, lines meet up with lines and shapes meet up with shapes. And especially when you're dealing with florals, the circle really helps me a lot, right? So making circular things and looking like, look at, so this, you remember when I extended her sleeve right here? Well, these are just flowers to me. So this is a flower, right? So things just turn into flowers for me. This is a flower, right? So I'm completely detaching from her and her clothing and her purpose. And I'm just heading into abstract florals, right? So I'm super excited, right? And then it'll just become about painting these flowers with the wax and drawing them, right? So this is kind of neat over here. Like this whole area is neat over here because I have the little flowers. So I kind of go from wax medium to drawing, and then I sort of hope that I have a vision, right? And then sometimes I go from wax medium to a stencil, and then that helps me get the vision. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Yeah.
And sometimes it takes a couple times. Like it's almost like jump starting a motorcycle or something. Like you have to kind of like push it down the hill and pop the clutch in and hope it goes. And then if it doesn't, you take it back up the hill, and you do it again, right? So you either add another stencil or you carve back something or you draw something. And once you've painted around with your flowers, and you become more and more familiar with whatever flowers you're using, you sort of just start to recognize these floral shapes. And again, like make up your own flower, right? Like make up your own flower. Like flowers don't have to be realistic, right? Petals can be in any shape. Like free yourself up. All right, so I have to make a decision. And I think I have to go definitely in a light color. So I have to decide if she's throwing these flowers out into the universe. I think she has to go this side.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, I
It
like
has to go
that
this
one
way,
too.
right? It can't go this way. All right, so it's gonna go this way. All right, so but I have to decide if it's going that way. I think it makes more sense this way
Yeah,
or this way.
Yeah.
This way,
That
right?
way.
This way. Yes? No, I don't like that. No, okay.
I
so
like
it's
it the other way.
Okay, it's gotta go this way.
That way.
Yep, there you go.
Yeah.
More movement. Yeah, there's more movement.
Okay. And I'm gonna go off her hand a little bit. Also, remember what I said about adding a stencil. What did I say? Make sure that your surface is what?
Smooth.
Flat. Yeah, flattish. It can't go on a bumpy, textury canvas, canvas. So I've got 2 nice layers of wax medium on here. So and I have to pick a color. So I think I can go light pink. I'm not gonna go bright white. So I could go light yellow, which I kind of think would be cool. Like light yellow. What do you think? I have a really nice wax snap. It's like iridescent. I have this color, it's iridescent, or this color.
I think I like your second choice.
Nice.
Okay, and I could mix them.
Oh, there you go.
I could mix it. I could make it like a gray, like yellowy. This is kind of a cool color. This one like the putty color. What do you think? This one's too sparkly, I think.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, the iridescent is not gonna work with this what you're doing here.
What do you mean? You can't just add some sparkle and it works?
No, I try that, and it usually is not very good.
Just add some sparkle and it works. Add some sparkle and it works.
Is that like magic? Like,
I think some girls it works for them. Yeah. All right. Now, also, I don't know if anybody noticed, but my stencil's really dirty. So just a little, if you want to clean your stencil, there's couple ways you can clean it, but the quickest way for me right now is to just lay it. Lay it right on the hot plate. And try not to melt the stencil, right? So don't walk away from it. Yeah, don't walk away from it. The other thing you can do if you're afraid to do this with your stencils is you can freeze them, right? So wax is equally deteriorated or harmed, right, by freezing as it is by heating. It doesn't like to be cold. It contracts and cracks. So keep that in mind if you're living in a cold place. And if you're putting your, don't leave your pieces outside in the garage in the winter time, okay? Because if they crack, they crack. And even if you were perfect on all of your, even if you're perfect on all of your formulas, it's still possible, right? That they can. All right, so I'm losing my mojo here. All right, here we go. I'm gonna go this way. Okay, and again, I'm gonna go bigger than I need to, right? And I'm always gonna do more than I need, right? Because I can subtract, right? So I'm mixing the yellow with the kind of putty gray. And then I really have to, it's like really way too bright. So I'm gonna add, this is iridescent too. I'm gonna add some white, which also has a little bit of red in there. Imagine that. Everything in my world's turning pink these days. Okay. I don't know if I like it. All right, and then I'm gonna add mud. So I'm not gonna add wax medium because I'm gonna add mud. And I'm gonna add mud. And again, so look, if I'm not happy with my encaustic paint situation, so I'm gonna switch and I'm actually gonna use the pigment stick just because I have more of it and it's cleaner. So I'm gonna whiten it. Now I could also whiten it with that other color that I really liked. If I can find it. Oh, yep. Okay, so I could also add this color, right? See how much this is the color I kind of want, right? It's almost like I have that color there, but it's just a little bit too, so I'm gonna just actually put the pigment stick in there. And I'm gonna add more mud. And a little bit of medium. All right, that's good, that's good, that's good. Okay, that's pretty. It's so bright, you guys can't, okay. And I'm just gonna go everywhere because I don't know. Why not? And I'm gonna gradient. I'm gonna start gradiating it. So I have to get a darker color. Well, I'm just gonna use whatever this is. Oh, that's good. I don't even know what that is, but that's good. I think it's just a dark color. It could be Payne's gray. Oh, but we did say we wanted it lighter up there, huh? Oh, putty's nice. I'm gonna just switch brushes first. I'm just gonna make it more translucent. So I'm just really gonna, make it more translucent. All right, so I pretty much did the whole friggin' thing. All right, so again, while I have this paint here, I'm gonna add somewhere else, right? Because I can, right? So I'm just gonna add it. I'm just gonna add it because I have it, right? And if I had like another, like, if I had another piece that I was actually working on right now, I might even add it to that, but I don't like to waste the paint, so I'm just gonna add it. And I did all these little drawings so I can add it into these, like, remember I did all those incising lines? So I can add it into there. And I can also add it, you know, a little rougher. I don't know. Okay. So I'm gonna hit it with the palette knife. There's purple all over my palette knife, purple palette knife. And now this too, like when you have extra encaustic paint here too, you can add it. So you can add it in chunks. You can add it in strips. So blending, right? It's just all about blending. All right, let's see what we got. Okay. So that looks pretty cool, right? And already I feel like that was definitely a good decision. And I definitely like the fact that I like painted over a lot of like those flowers, right? Over here, right?
Yeah.
So then this sort of like, this is just beautiful. Like everything about that, yeah, it's beautiful. And it's beautiful that's kind of like this lacy over these flowers too, right? It was really cool. All right, so I think it's 4:57 for as well. I think I'm just like toast, but let me fuse it real quick for you guys, and then I'm so sad.
Do you have a stencil that you like better than others?
Well, right now I really like this one. No, yes, of course I do. Of course I do. There was actually a pack of stencils that were like flowers. The thing for me about stencils right now is that some of them I like love, but I'm really upset that they're so small. Like again, like the scale issue is hard. So I don't know, you know, like I want to work.
Do you have any that ever melt? That I mean, like, is there some that are have more sturdiness than others?
No, they're not that expensive. I mean, I don't ever feel like gypped by it. No, I mean, my problem with them is really like scale. You know, some of the stencils that I love are small, and I really wish they were like bigger. So I kind of have to, you know, someday I'm gonna have to kind of address that. Like, do I want to make my own? I don't know. So far, I've been getting by. You know what happens to me when I work bigger is that I just sort of use very basic stencils in combinations to kind of mirror stencils that I have that are bigger. Does that make sense? I don't know. That sounds kind of abstract or weird, but so for example, like if you're working bigger and you have like a large polka dot, you know, you could kind of combine stencils to kind of look like more like what you have smaller. There's never been a stencil that I've had that I haven't liked. Sometimes the lace, and the fabric is too soft and it falls apart, like it'll shred. But there's no reason why you can't leave lace in the wax, right? So if it's really giving you a hard time and doesn't want to come out, maybe it needs to stay in there. There was definitely a couple pieces I did, that were big, that like when I tried to pull, a material, this is this tooling material is amazing in the wax, I mean, it's amazing with wax on it. It's beautiful, right? So, I can send you some links to my stencils that I like, but I just shop around and try to get what I have. I would love some big, like nice flowers, like really big, nice flowers. I don't know if I'm just gonna have to try to cut them out myself. I haven't done that yet, but if things keep going the way they're going with the pandemic, I'm gonna have plenty of time on my hands.
You could look at wall stencils or floor stencils.
Yeah, but they're so boring. They're terrible.
Oh, okay.
I have, but you know what? I mean, if you guys find any, I mean, I've looked and they're like, like scroll, like simple scroll with like, a 3-petaled flower at the top. Like, they're not fun.
Okay.
They're not fun.
Okay.
I'll take some, my favorite ones, there's a couple that I like. I think they're maybe somebody's stencils. There's a pack of 4 flowers that I love, and they're super floral, but not literal. I actually really like this one. I mean, this one is like this is like, maybe what I could do too is get somebody like to commission somebody, if I show them a stencil I like, to enlarge it for me. Like, I love this one. I love this one, especially too, because it's like the bud, right? It's the shape of the bud, then the like opening blossom, and then the full blossom.
Yeah, you got a whole range of
and I like
there.
Yeah, and I like different styles. Like this one too, like I can really use this one if I repeat it enough times, right? Just keep repeating it. I can make it look like it's super tall, like I can connect it, right? And overlap. And so, and this one is big, and I have used this one successfully. But again, like you really have to try to abstract it. You just don't want it to be like, you don't want them to be so literal. So you have to really work on them and mix them with your own drawing and painting to get them to kind of really speak for you.
Leah?
Yes.
If you find someone with a laser cutter,
yes,
you can give them drawings and they can make you a stencil.
I don't know. Do you know anybody with a laser cutter?
Yeah, I do.
Well,
that's why I know this is possible.
Well, ask them if they'll make some stencils for me. I mean, that could be.
I will do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be great. I would love to work with somebody. Sometimes I get, and I don't know if you guys but I get to the end of my line about how much stuff I can actually do well. And
absolutely.
And then you need to outsource. So I'm always willing to outsource and find other people to collaborate with me to, like I don't build my own panels. I mean, come on, like I hire a wood guy. Like I'm not, no, I'm not going to spend my time cutting. I can't even cut a straight line. And I definitely couldn't cut a straight line with a saw. So there's no way. But I would love to find somebody who is interested in doing that. Yeah. Let me know.
I think there's people on Etsy too that will, that do that kind of thing. The person I know is my son. I don't know that he wants to do it for other people, but I know there's a lot of people on Etsy who make like decals and custom decals and stuff like that.
Oh, that'd be fun. All right. Well, that's something we have to. Well, let me know. Yeah, let me know if anybody finds anybody good. I do think that wax and caustic stenciling is amazing, and I do think that getting more original stencils can only make your artwork more beautiful and personal. Or just forcing yourself to think out of the box on that. So yes, let's keep in touch on that one for sure. And yeah, and lace is really good. Fabric, it's not as serious a pattern, right? A lot of lace is made up of a lot of little holes, right? So it's still it's softer, but it definitely is floral and can look amazing in the work, right? Or the tech, giving a texture to the work.
You were talking about leaving that material in. Is there a material that you would not suggest working in with encaustic?
Yeah, real flowers. People always don't do it. I just think I don't like it. I just think it looks terrible. And they mold, they brown and they mold. The wax isn't gonna, they fall apart. I mean, it's a great, I like the idea of it. I do know some artists. There's a woman here in Philly named Rachel Isaac, and she actually collages with flower petals. So I'm not sure even how she gets all her petals. I feel like she even buys them from like a flower farm or something that are pressed, but then she glues them to white board. Now, if you did artwork like that and then maybe waxed over it, I don't know how she keeps the petals colorful for a lot. She must glaze them, right?
If you microwave them, they stay very colorful.
Okay. Well, then they could be cool in the wax. Microwaving them?
Microwaving them sandwiched in between paper towels and fire bricks.
Okay.
It works really well.
Okay. So then you could add, and then that could be a really nice addition to the wax as like a detail, or making flowers in the wax that kind of look like that. I mean, this is like every artist, like sort of, you have to like pick your style, right? You pick your style and you pick, what elements you want to combine together. For a long time, I've been using the ones that I use, and they've been flowers and women and fabric. And the stencils are sort of like newer, the burn, sort of newer. And, you try something, but really you don't want at the end of the day your work to be about any of those one things. You want it to really blend together, and become its own thing, not just, stencil art, or flower art, or right. You just want it to be beautiful. So, it's kind of like a little bit of those elements that you pick. I'd be super excited to see any of the ideas that everybody came up with. Any parting questions? I did want to give everybody a heads up that I am going to offer, I think I'm going to offer this class, part 2, but not until 2021 and in the winter of 2021, because I need something to look forward to. I'm not looking forward to the winter of 2021. So I'm going to go to Texas. I am traveling for a workshop. I've canceled all of my workshops this year, except for this one at the Encaustic Center with Bonnie Leibowitz. And I actually tried to cancel it 3 times. And people said that they wanted to be in person. So I am scared. I'm really scared actually, but I'm going to go to Texas in December. And I think there's still room if anybody, Richardson, but Bonnie Leibowitz is amazing at the Encaustic Center in Texas, Richardson. And I'm supposed to go to Vermont. I was supposed to go to Vermont this summer with Lorraine Glesner, but we canceled that because of COVID. And we rescheduled it for next August. It's at a farm and it's going to be about nature photography, hiking, being in nature, and painting with encaustics. But I post everything on my website. Everybody has my website address, right? So I try to post all of my workshops on my website. And it's a little bit, my website address is a little awkward because I have a dash in between Leah and McDonald. Okay, so tonight and tomorrow you'll receive part 1, 2, 3, 4 of this weekend in YouTube videos, and they will be totally public and available for a couple weeks. And then they might, then I think I'm just gonna make them private and send you guys a link to them. I have to look into exactly how that works.
Maybe it's like Vimo, maybe you get like a password protected area or site. I don't know.
Yeah. I think once I make them private, I just get a pass. I feel like somehow though, once I start trying to make them private, they're gonna want to try to charge me. I don't know.
Oh, I don't know. Yeah.
I just have a sneaking, but we'll see. You guys were amazing. You guys were amazing. I hope it was inspirational and joyful and thought-provoking, and it's ignited all kinds of ideas about taking pictures of flowers, combining pictures of flowers, and of course painting pictures of flowers.
So many. Yeah,
Again.
it was great.
Thank you so much, Leah.
Thank you all so much for supporting me. I can't, you guys give me the energy to come out to my studio every day. You really do. I cannot, I'm very grateful. Because some days are, yeah, I'm super grateful. And I continue to work hard, to get better and to share more aha moments.
Well, thank you for being so generous with your time and with your talent.
Oh, thank you guys so much. And don't forget too, I'll take some pictures. I'll send you guys some pictures like of this, right? The tar, the Pan Pastel. And I'll keep you posted on the 2 pieces we started, which are far from done. And I hope to see you all in future workshops, either on Zoom. And be well, please, and be well. And take good care of yourselves, right? Take really good care of yourselves. And make lots of art.
Yep.
Because that's taking care of your life. Okay. Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
I can't put my hands together. Bye.